Oh, it's not so hot today. It's a little bit windy.
Well, it's windy. I forgot my hat. Anyway.
Yes. What's the topic today?
The topic today is the area where we are now. We are in an area which name is the Lauragais. It's an old area of France. If you like, it is encompassing some sections of 3 departments in the new Occitanie region, the former Languedoc. Those departments are the Haute-Garonne, the Aude, and the Tarn-et-Garonne. It's not very clear the limits, if you like. To the north east, you would find the counterforts of the Black Mountain, La Montagne Noire, as we call it in French, and to the southwest you would find the counterforts, the first counterforts of the Pyrenees chain. And in the middle of this small area, you find a kind of natural corridor with 2 slopes. There is one slope which is linking the Atlantic areas of France to the Mediterranean areas, and the 2 slopes are reuniting, are joining in a place which name is le Seuil de Nauruze. It has always been the way where everybody was traveling since antiquity. The Romans built here the Via Aquitania. Then after, during the Middle Ages, there were important commercial axes. Then in the 17th century they built the Canal du Midi. Then they built the rail track, the railway. And it's also here that you find the A61 autoroute now. Mm-hmm. So it's a windy corridor. There are sometimes very strong winds coming from the Mediterranean Sea that we call the vent d'Autan.
Is it the pays of cocagne? Can you explain this expression?
Yes, it is the country of cocaine of French people. In other words, the land of plenty. It comes from the 15th century when people around 1460 farmed a plant which name is Isatis tinctoria, the pastel, which gave a blue color. If you like, the leaves of the plant were crushed and grinded, and after a long process they were transformed into a kind of a paste under the shape of a small ball, and the name of these balls was the coq or cocagne, hence the name Pays de Cocagne, because it is under this shape that this pastel was exported all over Europe. Unfortunately, after 1560, the French religious wars ruined the business, and indigo too. Indigo was another blue dye coming from America. It was less expensive and gave a better blue, so that was the end of the business of pastel, of cocagne, which made the fortune of a lot of merchants and traders from Toulouse. Nevertheless, after the cocaine, people came back to more traditional crops, here particularly wheat, which was easily exported by the Canal du Midi. And today, to the yellow color of the wheat, you can find the green color of corn and the yellow color of the sunflowers. Isn't it beautiful?
Yes, it is.
But actually, it's not really for this agricultural wealth that we are here. But above all, I would like to speak of the main event that happened here during the Middle Ages, from the 12th century until the 14th century, an event that we called the Crusade against the Cathars.
So you are talking about Cathars. Is there a link with Cathars castles?
Yeah, yes, very often people only know the so-called Cathar castles. It's not sure at all that they were Cathars. Anyway, I would not like to speak of the Crusade itself, but I would like to speak of what happened before and how those heretics were living in this area, because yes, they were not living always in kind of eagle nests like the castle of Montségur or Quéribus, but they were living like the usual people in towns, in villages, in what we call castrum. In other words, fortified village under the shelter of a castle.
Okay.
And we shall see two of these castrum.
Great. And can you explain to me what exactly is Cathars?
Yes, let's say that it's a religious movement that appears in the middle of the 11th century, that is organizing, developing during the 12th century, and which starts to be fought by the Catholic Church in the 12th and the 13th century. The Catholic Church will anneantize the Cathar religion in the 14th century. So it is more than a mere Christian movement. It is preaching a return to the origin of Christianity. They consider that everything that goes after the original church, all the additions made by the Catholic Church, has no value at all. For example, the cult of relics, the purgatory, the presence of God in the earthy and so on. But it goes farther. It's kind of dualist Christianity, considering that if God is infinitely good, he cannot be responsible, he cannot have created evil. So there is an evil entity, inferior, which actually is the creator of all the tangible things, of all the world where we are, has been created by the devil. Okay? Only our soul is of divine origin, and it is kind of trapped, imprisoned in, as the Cathar said, in our skin tunic. If after death our soul wants to come back to God, the only way is to follow the Christ teaching, particularly not killing, not lying, not fornicating, etc. So there is only one sacrament. The name is the Consolamentum, and it is replacing all the Catholic sacraments, the baptism, the confirmation, the ordination, and so on. The way how you receive Consolamentum is as follows. The recipient, you put your hand, you impose your hands on a book. Usually it is the Gospel of St John, which itself is put on the head of the recipient. That's the way how the Consolamentum is transmitted, the sacrament is transmitted to the new recipient. Once the new recipient is considered like a consolé, he can himself give Consolamentum to somebody else.
Okay, but I'm not sure to clearly understand what happened to the soul in the Cathars religion.
Yes, it's maybe a little confusing. Let's say that if you were given the Consolamentum, when you are a consolé, once you die, your soul comes back to God, and that's all. If you are not consolé, your soul, after your death, we have to find another body. You will kind of reincarnate in somebody else, and the cycle is starting again. But in the Cathar religion, there is no eternal hell, as we see it in Catholic religion. In other words, at last all the souls will come back to God. All the souls will be saved. So another important point is that the clergy, the hierarchy inside the Cathar religion is quite simple. Let's say that at the base you find the faithful, the believers. Then after you would find the good men or good women. Then after you would find the deacons. Then the bishop. And these two helpers, his two followers, is a major son and his minor son. And that's all. It's very simple. And if women like men can preach, can give the sacrament, the hierarchy is meant to men. When women are in charge of the houses of the Cathars.
Oh, it's not very feminist.
Let's not use these words for the Middle Ages, but I would say that it is a dispatching of the duties that is quite intelligent. Men are in charge of the organization and the fight against the Catholic Church, when women are in charge of pedagogy.
So why are the Cathars only found in this place in the Languedoc?
Well, actually they were not only found in the Languedoc, in the Occitanie, in this part of the Kingdom of France. There were Cathars in the north of France, in Flanders, in Italy, in Greece, and even in Germany. Actually, it is only in Germany that those heretics should be called Cathars. It's coming from a cleric whose name was Eckhart. He was abbot of Chenau, and he voluntarily made up a confusion between two words. The first word was Cathar. The Cathars were members of a kind of devilish sect worshipping the devil under the shape of a white cat. And the other word was Catharos, the Greek word, meaning the pures. But Eckhart used the word pures like an insult, those who pretend to be pures. So making the confusion between those two words, he tried to show the Cathars as worshippers of the devil.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And why the Cathars works so well here?
So it worked so well here, probably because the Cathars, the Cathar clergy, never had the desire, never showed they were interested by wealth, by power, unlike the Catholic Church, which at the same time across the papacy tried to take advantage, to dominate all the lay powers. So for the local aristocracy, the Cathars were not a threat, and well, okay, why not to help them if they need help? So, well, of course, there are plenty of villages, little towns, those castrum, where you would find Cathars communities, but I would like to show you particularly two of those castrums. The first one is the village of St Félix de Lauragais. It's interesting because here, a little before the Crusade against the Cathars, an important event took place right here in this castrum of St Félix de Lauragais, and now I propose you to make a tour of it.
Let's go.
Okay, so now that we are in the village of St Félix, Lauragais, you're gonna see that it looks like a small bastide. I mean, with symmetrical streets that are framing central square. But in the Middle Ages, it was not like that. Actually, it was again what I called a castrum, protected by a castle and surrounded by fortifications. And it is here that in 1167 took place a kind of international meeting, gathering plenty of Cathar delegations. So, unfortunately, the chateau which is in front of us is likely not the one which was standing here in the end of this 12th century, but it is certainly here, at this place, that this important meeting took place. So who came here? Plenty of representatives. The representatives of the four dioceses, the four Cathar dioceses of Occitanie. I mean the diocese of Toulouse, the diocese of Albi, of Agen, and the fourth one was Carcassonne. But there were also delegations, representatives from the northern part of France, Île-de-France, Champagne, Bourgogne. There were representatives of Flanders, there were representatives of Italy, and even Greece.
And not Germans?
Yes, we spoke of Germans. Actually, certainly in 1167, those Germans, this Cathar German church was already anneantized by the Roman Church. So the president of this kind of council was a man called Nicetas or Nicinta. He was a Bogomil. In other words, the Bogomil was the name given to the Cathars of Byzantine Empire. Nicetas was coming from Constantinople, and he was representing the communities that were spreading from Bulgaria to Constantinople. And the fact that he was given the presidency of this important meeting, it could show, it could prove that it is from this area, from this part of Europe, that slowly Catharism spread all over Western Europe.
Well, so it's a kind of a big meeting, but you didn't say what's the aim of this meeting.
Yes, true. So I'm going to tell you now. The first reason why this meeting was organized is that they wanted to fix definitely the limits, the borders of those four dioceses of Occitanie. In other words, it was not only a matter of fixing the frontiers, but organizing, structuring those new dioceses. But there is certainly another reason, which is to be given a new consolamentum. Actually, the Cathars could receive several times a new consolamentum. And actually, the Cathars, like the Christians, considered that the spirit of Pentecosta was transmitted since the apostles across the bishops, you know. They saw the same, the Cathars. But the difference, unlike in the Christian church, they had to be given the sacraments, the consolamentum, by absolutely pure people. So how could they really know that the people who was giving them the consolamentum was as pure as he pretended? So better to have a multiple consolamentum with new people coming from other areas, so that you could be sure that among one of those consolamentum was a good one, was the right one.
So you introduced the castle of St Félix. We are going to leave this town, but is there something else to show? Maybe in the middle of the village?
Yes. Well, what I propose you now is, of course, to have a short tour of the village, and particularly to make a stop in the central square. It's quite interesting. So we are now in this central square. One good information I give you is that behind the market hall there is a bar and a restaurant. It's quite important. Did you notice the name of this central square?
Yes, it's called Guillaume de Nogaret.
So, who was Guillaume de Nogaret, you know?
I just know it was involved into the fall of Templars.
Yes. Well, first to know is that he's the most well-known child of the village of St Félix, although there were some others, like painters, for example. But yes, this Guillaume de Nogaret was born in around 1160, and he soon became one of the favorite advisors of the King of France, Philippe the Fair. He was also one of the promoters of the almighty power of the King of France. In addition, he was probably a kind of executor of the dirty works of the King of France. For example, he was involved in what we call the outrage of Agnani, when the King of France sent a troop of several hundred soldiers and knights in order to threat the Pope of Rome, but who at this time was in the town of Agnani. And this group of soldiers literally assaulted the place where the Pope was and brutalized him. And while he was brutalized by Guillaume de Nogaret, who was commanding this group of men with some Italian knights, he shouted to Guillaume de Nogaret, "Oh, son of a Cathar, son of a Cathar." So it's quite funny, I think. Okay, it's time to have a drink now. Okay. So we are very close to the second village I want to show you, the castrum of Fanjaux. You see how beautiful are the surroundings. We are along the very southern border of the Lauragais area. So right in front of you, you see it's almost the same position, the same location than St Félix yesterday, on a small height. So, okay, let's not waste our time and go for a tour.
So we are arriving in Fanjaux. Yesterday we were at St Félix,
yes.
But it seems to be very similar. What is special about this village?
Yes, sure, it is very similar. As you can check, it's built on a height. It is a castrum. It was also surrounded by fortifications. There was a castle. But here, a lot of events happened a few years before, at the beginning of the Crusade. But first, we can say that this place was inhabited since antiquity, because here the Romans built a small temple which was dedicated to Jupiter. Hence the name Fanum Iovis in Latin, which became Fanjaux in the local language. So let's sit a little. It's very quiet here. So, if you like, we can come back a few years before the Crusade. There is another event I wanted you to know, which is what we call the Council of Lombers. Lombers is a small village in the Albi area, And in 1165, here there was a kind of dispute between the Cathars and the Catholics. Actually, the official reason why this concile happened was to try to reconcile the two churches. But at the end, after a few days of speeches by both sides, it was decided that the two churches were absolutely irreconcilable. In addition, the Catholic Church decided that Cathars were considered like heretics. In other words, they could be sentenced to very hard punishments. Another important moment is a little later, in 1199. The Church carried on preparing its juridic arsenal against the Cathars. And in 1199, there was a papal bull which made heresy a capital offense, liable of the worst punishments.
So, beside this threat, did the Catholic Church try to convince the Cathars
Yes.
to go back to the right way?
Yes, this is true. That beside that, the Church in the middle of the 12th century decided to organize predication missions, and the first of this mission was probably led by Saint Bernard himself. The second of this mission was led also by a Cistercian. It happened around 1180, but it was an armed mission that did not work. And the third of this mission happened at the beginning of the 13th century, but it had no success at all. Which makes that all the Cistercians, the leaders of the missions, were quite discouraged. When, miracle, they met two men. The first man is, his name is Diego of Osma, is the bishop of Osma in Spain, and his canon, whose name was Dominic of Guzman. And this Diego of Osma is the first one who understood that the way of preaching of the Cistercians was not the right way. He decided actually to copy the Cathar preachers who were having a way of life which was in accordance with their teachings. Poverty, simplicity. It was so different with the Cistercians and their luxurious party, you know. It was not convincing at all. So Diego of Osma decided to send back his retinue and go barefoot on the roads, preaching just like the Cathars, always accompanied by this Dominic of Guzman. And what is incredible is that he decided to preach and to go and fight Catharism, heresy, right in the middle of this heretic area. In other words, right here in Fanjaux.
So Dominic was here in Fanjaux, trying to convince Cathars to be Catholics. But what was his way? Was he preaching? Was he? What was his way?
Yes, this is the same technique, preaching among the Cathars and organizing those disputes against Cathar orators. And one of those disputes, it's the miracle of the beam. Actually, we do not know exactly if it happened in Fanjaux or in the next village of Montreal. It's not important. The thing is that there was a long dispute between Dominic, the future Saint Dominic, and the best Cathar orator. He was quite redoubtable. His name is Guillaume de Castres. And after a few days of trying to convince the other one, nobody won, so they decided to ask God who was the winner. And they kind of organized an ordeal. They made a fire, and Saint Dominic and Guillaume de Castres had to throw in the fire their own books. Of course, it is a Catholic legend, and as soon as the book of Guillaume de Castres, the Cathar, was thrown in the fire, it was immediately consumed. When the book of Dominic literally popped out of the flames 3 times and hit one of the beams, which left a mark on the beam. Actually, the beam is now displayed in the church of Fanjaux. So you see the kind of miracle that was happening here.
So, did Dominic succeed in this preaching?
Not sure. It had no conclusive effect, and nobody knows if it would have had some, because soon in 1209 started the Crusade. The Crusade against the Cathars, and Dominic had to leave Fanjaux. He was quite disappointed, it is said. What happened next is that in 1215 he's going to create a new order, the order of the preachers, the monk preachers, the Dominicans, whose mission will be to the predication. Actually, we have to do justice to Dominic, who died in 1221. He's often accused to be the founder of this terrible Inquisition. We shall see that later. Actually, it is not true. He died in 1221, and the creation of the Inquisition is 1233. Nevertheless, the Pope gave the leadership of the Inquisition to the Dominicans and the order which was created by Dominic. But Dominic only fought Catharism by the speech, not by the weapon.
I guess there is a lot of things to see in this village, so I suggest to go explore a little bit.
Okay, whenever you like.
So we are at Saint Domingue Street. I guess this is the Occitan version of Saint Dominic.
That's it.
It's kind of hot. I propose to sit, maybe.
Good idea. I see a very welcoming bench.
Okay, Bruno, what happens during the war against the Cathars?
If you like, we should speak of that during another video when we will explore one of those so-called Chateau Cathar. What we can say is that the crusade itself lasted from 1209 and the siege of Béziers and the massacre that followed, and it ended in 1229 by the Treaty of Meaux. This Treaty of Meaux marked the defeat of the Count of Toulouse, Raymond VII, and the beginning of the annexation of the south of France, what we call the Languedoc, to the Kingdom of France. Nevertheless, Catharism was not dead yet, and the Church, in order to get rid of it once forever, decided to create a special court, which name is, you know the name, the Inquisition.
Okay, so yes, I can imagine what the Inquisition is, but how did they proceed for the specific case of the Cathars?
So let's say that the Inquisition was really invented to fight against the Cathars, the heretics, in 1233. And if you like, it's not working, it's not proceeding according to the accusatio, according to the Roman law. It's working on denunciation. This court is an itinerant one at the beginning, so it goes from one village to another village, and when they arrive in a village, you have to come to them and denounce yourself. And the sooner you denounce yourself, the lighter the sentence against you will be. So it's quite dangerous. They can interrogate an entire village, and all the interrogations are carefully written so that they can know exactly what everybody was doing, what was the relation between every inhabitant and the so-called Cathars. So, in addition, the sentences are often very heavy. If you are a true believer, I mean consolé, a perfect, the sentence is to be burned at the stake. If you are just the usual believer, the sentence is according to your relation, the depth of your relation with the Cathars. It can be very heavy, it can be a life imprisonment, what was called le mur, the wall. It could be the mur strict, the straight wall, which was a synonymous of slow death. But there were lighter sentences. For example, you were obliged to go in pilgrimage. So, well, after a while, the Inquisition worked very well. And it is said that in 1321, the last perfect, the last good man, Cathar, was burned at the stake. His name was Belibast. It happened, yes, in 1321 in the village of Villerouge-Termenès. And that's the end.
Wow, so we are at a beautiful look at. What can you tell us about this place?
Yes, it's a very special place because according to the legend, this is right here. The name of the place is the Seignadou. We could translate that into the sign of God. This is from this lookout that Saint Dominic saw a kind of fireball striking the ground. It was a divine sign showing him where he had to build the first monastery, the monastery of Prouille. You can see it right in front of us.
So the fireball just left here?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So yesterday we were in St Félix.
Yes.
Today we are at Fanjaux.
Yes.
But what really remains from the Cathar? What can we see that is very tangible?
Well, I feel like answering you nothing. Because yes, there were the Crusades, there were other wars like the 100 Years' War, the religious wars, and other changes, which makes that, yes, there is nothing that you can touch dating back from the Cathars. Nevertheless, especially when you discover this incredible landscape, that has not changed, and we can say that the atmosphere is the same as it was when the Cathars were living in Fanjaux.